Back to the Parallel Universe. I'm your host, Logan Bruce, and in the Square Table Studios via the internet, we have Whyt Manga. Whyt Manga is a creator over there at Saturday AM, the world's most diverse uh, manga anthology. So, Whyt Manga, thank you so very much for joining us here in the Square Table Studios. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Like you said, the creator of Apple Black, writer and illustrator, and part of the Saturday AM team, one of the co-founders. Got our books here. Definitely go check them out if you haven't already. You don't want to create the heroes. We want to create, want to see ourselves in our heroes and, do stuff that is inspired by Japanese manga, but, beyond that and, our own stuff that is what makes Japanese manga authentic, given that most of the creators that are Japanese, they're influenced by their own stuff, their own culture, their own worlds, and it's authentic to them. And we want to bring some of that into, or some more of that into what we do and just beyond just Japanese culture. But if you wanted to do Japanese culture, that'll still be fine, as long as it's like well researched and you know what you're doing. So, have fun. We all love anime and manga here and big fans of that. And that has helped fuel what we do today.
Oh man, that's awesome. And as you mentioned, Saturday AM has a diverse uh, group of creators and everything. So, uh, how did you guys get started? I mean, I know you're one of the founders of Saturday AM, and you helped bring it to light. So, how did all of that get started? If you may, mind asking.
Um, Everybody was kind of doing their own thing, and back in the day, it was the internet was the wild, wild west. You still had some websites and places that everyone would go read original content or sometimes fan fiction, whatever the case may be. But I was creating work and posting it on sites like Inkblazer, which is not available anymore, but it was similar to what Webtoon is today, or Tapastic. At least Tapastic back then is known as Tapas today. And there have been more apps and websites that have popped up, but I used to post there and obviously share stuff, share a community, create a community of people online who are interested in like art tutorials, wanted to learn how to do some of the stuff that I already do, kind of documenting the good and bad of everything I do with my YouTube channel, Manga TV. So that's how I was able to put my work out there, and as a result, I was easier and easier to find. And I connected with Raymond Brown, who's the writer and illustrator of Bully Eater, and he brought me on board before that DM was launched. And that's how I met Frederick, who is the CEO and founder. And at the time, people had like their own ideas of wanting to make a Shonen Jump-esque type thing here in the US. And I think that was the first time I saw it, and a serious opportunity to do it and do it right and do it in a way that's unique and authentic. And I came on board and haven't looked back ever since. And this was like late 2013. And so I left Ink Blazers, I guess a year before it actually went belly up. But we started doing the magazine again, very influenced by what's done in Japan, where you release a chapter or a certain amount of pages as an installment, and then eventually it gets combined together as a graphic novel, tankobon, or a volume. Some similar stuff here happens here in the West because of these, and then eventually you get a graphic novel as well. But we started to do that, but fully digitally, and we built a company from there. We eventually had a website, app, and all the other cool stuff that we've been able to do. But the mission and the goal was to make manga, anime, and all of that even more diverse, where we get to see stuff beyond just Japan. We get to see ourselves and our heroes, our characters, our worlds, and all of that, and having fun telling interesting stories. And so I think as the years have gone by, we've found some success doing that, and so it's been a blast. We haven't looked back ever since, and we've continued to grow each year. And now we're there's some stuff happening that's really, really exciting, and we're going to keep pushing forward. I can't wait for the right time to share a lot of those, but some of it we've shared. We've partnered with other big companies that we've done toys, we've done merch, people who license official anime IP, Dragon Ball, Attack on Titan, Evangelion, all that. And we've done toys, like I said. Obviously, now we've had distribution deals where the books are now worldwide out there. Apple Black Volume 1 to 5 is available. Clock Striker 1 to 3. 3 comes out next year, February. Other series, Saturday Wars, were similar to. So we're influenced by what's done in Japan, but also what's done here in the West with like Marvel, DC, and so you see like Infinity Wars and these multiversal crossover stuff. We have that with Saturday Wars, and we've also, like I said, we have a bunch of books out for our series, and we're really proud of all the work that we built over the years. Shout out to our distributors, Quarto. And so we've done more and more. We just partnered with Webtoon for more vertical scroll format of the comics, and they'll be in color, it'll be vertical scroll, it'll be that. Just overall more accessibility and widening the readership of the community we've already built. And then we have the video game coming out. So we try to enter spaces that are usually only occupied by the big boys, like the Marvel, the DC, all that, Image, and people from Japan and stuff like that. And try to represent for our own. For the, I don't know if we're still indie, but like you know, so depending on how you look at it, we're no longer indie, but we're just trying to enter spaces even as small as we are and trying to represent in good ways. And I think so far we've done that. So 10 a.m. started 2013. Issue 1 was like Apple Black was one of the first series, Bully Eater and amongst other ones. And then not too long after that, I said like I think issue 32 or something, Clock Striker came along. And then, you know, more series have come and we've just kind of kept powering through ever since.
All right, man. That's wonderful news, man. And I like I said, I really love, you know, the things that you guys are doing over there Apple at Saturday AM. I've met some of the creators. They're wonderful people. And like Fred Tonergen and Jeffrey John Wee, who wrote Yellow Stringer, and Fred wrote, of course, Gun Hill. My good friend who wrote Hammer, Jay Olden. I've met him, and of course, I've met Fred. I had a good conversation the other week with Sweet Tooth Eddie, so I met some of the artists as well. Just Morgan, just a lot of wonderful creators over there at Saturday AM, and I think she wrote a Soul Beater, Soul Beat. Yeah, and she, you know, she just a wonderful, wonderful group of people that I've met, and just listening to them and hearing their stories and how they, you know, became part of Saturday AM and everything. And it's just been a wonderful experience to meet, you know, you guys. So let me ask you a little question about Apple Black. Where did, you know, how did you come up with the idea of Apple Black, and what's going on with Apple Black? You know, what's the you know the premise of it, if you don't mind, sir.
So starting off with the premise. I'll say that it's kind of like a chosen one type story. Like we've kind of seen those a lot, right? But here, part of the distinction or things that help it stand out with the execution of how it's done is that the lead, Sano, a good kid and everything, but he struggles with visions that point to him actually not being the savior of the world, called the Trinity, but potentially the end of the world. And so that is like reality that he wrestles with throughout the series. And I think I execute even that in an interesting way beyond it being an interesting idea on its own, at least to me. It's in this fantastical world of sorcerers, similar to, you know, wizards and all that, with, say, a fairy tale or a Harry Potter and stuff like that. But then certain themes and ideas and concepts are reimagined. Like the ideas of a wand here are different from your traditional little stick where they say a little thing and they do the wands. The wands in Apple Black are a little bit more reimagined. A wand could be almost anything that has gone through, like any non-living thing that has gone through certain rituals, and help enhance the spells that sorcerers can already cast. So you have a character like Mikael who battles with smoke, for example, and a cigarette is wand. So you have all kinds of wands, guitars, stopwatches, a pair of dice. Maybe your sorcery is based in luck. A pocket watch. Maybe your sorcery is based in time. Boxing gloves, swords, all kinds of stuff. And if you're a fan of shonen manga, especially from the 2010s, that help influence what I do with like Bleaches, Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, all of that, then you can kind of imagine the type of shonen hype fun I plan to have in the series. And so yeah, Sano is this kid blessed with this Rhodes arm, this arm of a god, this god of sorcery, Merlin, and he's prophesied to be this trinity, but he has visions pointing to him being quite the opposite, potentially the end of the world. And so that's the basic premise. He also struggles with his father's demise while his father was working on an immense source of power in this world called Apple Black. And I've been working on this for over a decade now at this point. And I think how I came up with it originally, honestly, just started with the love of storytelling and wanting to tell stories that I would find interesting. I used to write Bleach and Naruto fan fiction, and that people like. And actually gave me confidence to keep writing. But then I wanted to write original stuff, write my own stuff. I was influenced by Western stuff as well, Spider-Man, Punisher, X-Men, and things like that. But I think when I found Japanese manga, I just liked the idea of that singular one-man army storytelling spearheaded by one person for the most part. And then I also like certain complexities of how certain ideas are just pushed a little further or just very unique. You can have, Fantastic Four just came out and like Mr. Fantastic is in it, but you see his powers are similar to like a Luffy, but the way Luffy in One Piece handles his stretching ability is just so different and so much more dynamic. And both are good, but I just think the One Piece version just kind of spoke to me, and that's just one example of what I mean when you compare Japanese comics to Western comics. Not that Western comics, not that one is better than the other, but I'm just saying like these are the little things I've taken away from both, and I wanted to create something similar. And so that's how I started with Apple Black and putting that together. And over time, I slowly started to find my own unique voice, art style wise, my own unique voice. From a narrative standpoint as well, because I started to get influence from other places, TV shows, Hollywood movies like Fight Club, and like I'm big on really good plot twists. The Sixth Sense, Westworld season 1 is pretty good. HBO Watchmen. So I've always liked mind bending, trippy stuff, and so I'm bringing some of that. I want to bring some of that energy, some of that sci-fi mind-bending, plot twisty energy into Apple Black as well, while still getting some of the energy that you find in the Bleach, in a Naruto, in a One Piece, in a Kama, which I think are very underrated in many ways. And so staying true to that and staying true to the unique voice that I've formed over time. So Apple Black overall has had different phases and different iterations, different forms, like while developing it. And it's become what it is today. And one of the moments of evolution was when I started to explore the idea of forgiveness a little bit more, what that means, not in a way that's preachy, but in a way that is even exploratory for me. Right, I don't really have the answer, so it's like I'm almost figuring it out as my characters are figuring it out in those scenarios, which I think is fun. And so forgiveness, freedom, inputting a lot of my own culture in there, which is part of the diversity mission of Saturday AM. And so you see some Nigerian nods in there with some of the characters, some of the wands, some of the abilities, even some of the dynamics from a governmental standpoint with corruption and stuff like that, which is very prevalent in some African countries. I know for sure in Nigeria there is a lot of corruption, and so just bringing all of that is authentic to me into the world. And I think as time has gone on, it's just kind of Apple Black has just kind of been evolving and becoming its own thing while exploring all those things at the same time. I started trying to put this together, maybe like very early 2010s or very late 2000s, and that's when I started to slowly take it seriously. I got more serious at making comics as time went on, especially once the internet started to take off and YouTube started to take off, and I started to put content on YouTube. And once the more people took it seriously, honestly, the more I took it seriously. And this all started while I was in college to do computer science, but eventually I made the switch and just had a computer science minor, and became a fine arts major in drawing. But when it comes to learning stuff about comics, I learned it through online resources, YouTube, all of that. and just did the best I could and shared whatever knowledge I could with the art community I was building. And as a return, it helped build an audience that was willing to check out my work. So Apple Black just kind of started that way. It's changed in name a couple times, but I like Apple Black because Apple, is also symbolic in certain ways for like a Genesis. It's like you think of the Bible and stuff like that. And even part of the evolution was evangelic a little bit, again, without not being too preachy, but exploring the idea of forgiveness and how that can, this is something I do believe, like in most cases, forgiveness could be the answer to solve in most situations, but the story also acknowledges maybe a naive take on it, a naive perspective, and how maybe the character, even though they want to be rah forgiveness, there'll be moments where can they even take their own advice when they're put through certain situations. And so those are certain things that I want to explore. Funny, and again, back to Superman, Fantastic Four Superman is similar in that sense. I think where he's looking at the good in the world, it's very different for him. There's a moment in the latest movie, without spoiling much, where he's too trusting, and they paint him as, he's not punk rock because he's too trusting. And his comeback is that maybe because the world is so dire, that the fact that he's too trusting is punk rock. It's more risky in that sense, which in many ways I can agree with. But to me, a comeback, which is something I would do in my series, a comeback to that is, it's easy for someone like a Superman to be so trusting. Not everybody's made of steel. Not everybody has that risk. So that's maybe a privilege in a way that he can't see. Or he could then maybe see it as, because he has that privilege, then he has to be the light that shows people, he has to be that example. So there is that back and forth, right? And that is something similar that I would like to explore with my characters. And so Sano has influences from Rurouni Kenshin. Rurouni Kenshin is kind of similar in a way, even though he has very dark past. And so there is a dark side to Sano, as the synopsis displays a little bit, where, like I said, there are visions that point to him potentially being the end of the world. So how would that happen if that is the truth? What does that mean? And all of that. And those are fun mysteries and twisty stuff and mind-bendy stuff that I like to play with, and I can't wait to explore in the series. So I think how Apple Black began, it just kind of began honestly all over the place. And then as years have gone by, I've trimmed it, and until it's like what we have today, where it's a clearer, I have a clearer vision of what I wanted. All started, I just knew I wanted to do. There was this calling, like I wanted to tell this story, and I had some good ideas. But then as time has gone by, the ideas I think have gotten better. I've gotten better as an artist. I've gotten better as a storyteller, and I've gotten better at even having a point message to convey. And that's really that without the black.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. I loved how you said you gotten better and you had a bunch of ideas, and then you kind of just narrowed it down to what we have today in Apple Black. And if you listen to a lot of movies, and those who do have storyboards and things of that nature, they have a bunch of ideas for a story they want to tell, but they always say the same thing. They always narrow it down. They have this idea, and they get rid of this and they add this until they come up with that final product. And that's beautiful, because it like you said, the story evolves into this wonderful thing, and that is just beautiful. So if you were to give your advice to someone out there who would love to be a creator, an artist, a storyteller, what advice could you give them to help them to do just like you said, kind of narrow down their idea so that their story comes across and it comes out the way they like and they feel that a lot of other people would benefit from?
My advice to that is, and it's probably something I would have done more of when I was starting out, is to do more one shots, do more one-off stories, not think too much about the grandiose big idea that you want to tell. Try and tell little mini stories and build some experience, build some XP that will prepare you for that, so that you can get a lot of your mistakes, your trial and error stuff out of the way. I did do some one shots. I did a one shot called, even though it was not a good one, which is good, right? You want to get it out of the way. It's called Candlejack, and there's so many issues with it, like so many. We could be here all day, but it still showed some potential, right? And you just keep building from there. I did another one where I worked with a writer. I also wanted that experience of what that would be like. That also had like a ton of issues and problems, but I think I could have probably done more to where I probably even have like good one shots that I can look back to, which and the one shots I can think of, weren't great. But after those two, I learned a lot from them, and then I went straight into the Apple Black. And I think I could have spent a little bit more time building experience, gaining XP, putting things together, learning certain things that I didn't know how to do at the time, building more confidence and speed and understanding of what needs to happen to make sure that everything is good. As a result, even when I did Apple Black, I think in like a couple years after I released Apple Black, in like the first volume with a bunch of chapters in it, I did like a revamped version where I went back and cleaned things up, right? So it was almost like I treated that first go as one of the one shots,
Okay.
and then I redid it. And even now that I've put stuff in the webtoon, the first few episodes, which are essentially chapter one in the manga, I still touched some things here and there, but that was just to add to the experience of, oh, you're gonna read it in this new format now with webtoon and color and the vertical script. But I remember in 2018 when I came back and did a tweet, it felt like that was even another moment where I was treating that first version of Apple Black as a first go around, the first one shot that lasted longer, or lasted a whole volume, but still. And you just kind of keep doing it until you've built strong confidence to where you know what you're doing from a narrative standpoint, story standpoint, plotting things out, and also learning how to tell a story in fewer pages is also a skill that is valuable. And I think one shots are great to really do that. And they're also a great way for you to realize and figure out if you actually even want to make comics, right? It makes the process overall less daunting, where you want to tell a story that's like maybe 20 chapters versus one or two chapters, where now you're already kind of at the finish line, right? And it allows you to see the whole story in a smaller scale, and it really gives you that test run of making comics, right? Not just for you to improve for next time, but for you to actually see if you want to do it, see if you like it, see maybe what elements of it you do like. Maybe you just like this part and you don't like the whole thing. And so you really have to be honest with yourself and what you're getting out of it and what you want to put out there. And I think one shots, amongst a bunch of other things, there are a lot of things that you can do with these one shot attempts. You want to make sure you're improving each time. You getting feedback from credible sources, so you know where your errors are. Knowing where your errors are, even to the minute level of your actual drawing, and maybe you struggle with drawing hands, but just being able to look at a hand that you've drawn and know where the flaws are is a great skill in itself. So you're learning on every level, and you're also soaking up a lot of information and just learning as much as you can, and trying to get better with each one shot, but you're also understanding yourself throughout that process to see if this is actually even what you want to do. So I could give advice all day, but that's really one of the top ones of like doing little short stories, some longer than others, maybe 50 pages or 30 pages, but even ones that are like 5 pages, 10 pages, just so you finish. That's another thing. So you have finished product, not just a bunch of projects that are incomplete. So you also kind of build some discipline on finishing things, and that also builds your confidence. So it helps you in so many ways. And so just as one answer, I'll just say do a lot of one shots.
Awesome, man. That's wonderful advice. I mean, I'm not a creator, you're right. I can't draw. I can't do any of that. So that's wonderful advice for someone who is trying to get into the game, so to speak, and in this world of creating comic books or manga or and writing stories and drawing. That's beautiful, man. That is absolutely great advice. And I know everybody's busy. I know you got things you got to do, and You got a deadline and everything. If I'm not mistaken, you were in San Diego Comic-Con, if I'm correct in that.
Yeah. I was there. I was there. I had a couple panels, and the first day I had one panel with Webtoon where I was talking. I was on the panel with people from Dark Horse and Webtoon and IDW, who are also in a similar boat with Saturday AM, where they have content that has been reformatted for that Webtoon audience. And we're just talking about that and excited for the new accessibility, where now, like with Apple Black and a lot of Saturday AM books, you to really follow it well, you either have to be a long time follower of the app and you read it every time the magazine drops, right? But sometimes that can be difficult because not every series is in every issue sequentially all the time, and so you might get a little drop off here and there. So the second way, which is a slightly better way of following your favorite series in Saturday AM, is to get maybe the books or find any outlet we have where you can just follow the chapter by chapter. But the books is one of the best ways, also one of the best ways to support us. And so we have obviously fans and readers and all of that, viewers, all that kind of stuff. They get the books, but not everybody can get the books for a plethora of reasons. Even though the books are available worldwide, you can get them in bookstores, Barnes and Noble. There was a time it was on Walmart, Amazon. Obviously, like the books are pretty much anywhere manga is sold. And if it's not in the store, you can literally ask the store to get it for you. They're very accessible already, but digitally with Webtoon, you get even more accessibility and access to their own base of readers and fans and people who are interested in just reading new stuff that they've never seen before. So this offers a whole new world of accessibility to our comics, starting with Apple Black, that we've not had in a while. And so it'll be great for people who already read our stuff, and then also great for the millions of new potential readers that are already on Webtoon, hungry for content. So we got to talk about that with people from Webtoon, Dark Horse, IDW, and then we had another panel the next day, kind of just talking about the differences between Western comics and Japanese comics, graphic novel versus manga, if there even is a difference technically, even though there is from a cultural standpoint, but technically, essentially, it's all comics, it's all pictures telling the story. And so I got to talk about that with a couple other authors, creators, say the creator of Sam from who does Unico, which is like a series IP created by Osamu Tezuka, who's seen as like the godfather of manga. He's done like Kimba, which similar to Simba. There's a whole thing with like Disney and Osamu Tezuka. If you go down the rabbit hole, you see some similarities where some people will say like the idea of Lion King was from there and whatever. But we got to talk about all of that the next day, and then on the third day, I was on a panel. I wasn't on the panel, but I went to see a panel that when Webtoon was presenting some of their content that has been adapted into other things. So this one's Omniscient Reader is adapted into a film, so I got to see a sneak peek of that. But Webtoon, they have other stuff, Tower of God, High School, a bunch of other series that even Omniscient Reader itself also becoming like animes and things like that. So maybe one day Apple Black stuff, Saturday AM stuff, fingers crossed. There are talks, very developed talks, but it's not appropriate to talk about them yet. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So as time goes on, we'll break those down. But San Diego Comic Con was fun. You guys got to see some real cool cosplay. Got to talk to some professional people about business stuff a little bit, and just got to walk around a little bit. And it's what you expect.
Okay, that's awesome. And I personally I have not been, but I can't wait for the day that I can make it to San Diego Comic Con and just soak in all of that wonderful good vibes from that place and all the wonderful things that happen there. But before we let you go, can you please tell us, where did the name Whyt Manga come from?
It's very simply put. I grew up in Nigeria, and I get a lot. I got a lot. We used to have like power outages, and we still do. And I remember I'd be playing like a Street Fighter game, and the lights would go off, and I look at the cartridges, and I try to draw that. That's really how the genesis of me drawing began, as far as I can remember. But then drawing stuff allowed me to get friends, because then they look at the art and they thought it was pretty good, even though looking back now, maybe it was good. I can't remember. I wish I had a lot more of my drawings as a kid. I just don't. But that's how I made a lot of friends. But growing up in Nigeria, I was lighter skinned, probably darker now because the sun has beat me up. But I was lighter skinned, so eventually at some point there were some jokes about me being. There are all kinds of Nigerian names, Oibo, all these things without going down that mythology. But White Boy was another one. Also, I thought Eminem is. I think Eminem is probably the greatest rapper of all time. So that I would get called White Boy as a joke, and it just kind of stuck. And I didn't want to spell it out white because I'm not white, and I don't want to have that mistake. So I spelled it with a Y. But people will see my hands drawing, so they thought I was. Some people probably thought I was white, anyways. But they come to find out later, surprised that I'm actually Nigerian. But that's the origin of it, and I just call it Whyt Manga. Sometimes I wish I did something else. Just to not be confused, and then also having that as a middle name. Originally, I don't have a middle name, but I remember there was like a forum someday, and I was just continuing that trend of calling me White. So I think I had to put something in there. So I just named myself in that moment, and I just put White, but then I put an E at the end to make it look more formal. And so that just stuck, right? So White as a whole is just a nickname that I got from secondary school in Nigeria, and it just kind of stuck because I kept writing it down in places, even though people stopped calling me that after secondary school, but I just kept writing it down, and now it's stuck. It's just there now. So
All right, that's an amazing story. A lot of our names do come from what kids used to call us when we were, younger and everything. Matter of fact, one of my nicknames is from what kids used to call me when I was younger as well. But let everyone know where they can find you and your work, Whyt Manga.
it is WHYT MANGA everywhere except YouTube, where it's still that, but you just put a TV at the end. So that's everywhere: Twitter, X, whatever, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you can find me, Pinterest, wherever you can find me. If Blue Sky, it's the same name, and you'll be able to find all my stuff there, all my artwork, posts. Same on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Whyt Manga, where I'll be posting some exclusive stuff, right? Some announcements with the video game are coming, and so there's a lot of cool stuff coming. And then obviously you can go get our books. See Apple Black Clock Striker right here, but we have other books: Orisha, Gun Hill, a how to draw book called Making Manga that I think is going to be pretty good. People are going to be excited. Going to learn a lot of stuff in here when it comes to even how anime is put together as well. Like a lot of theory stuff about how to create your own stuff, character designs, just great ideas, writing scripts, dialogue. Everything is in here. It's kind of like a follow up to our How to Draw Diverse Manga, but How to Draw Diverse Manga was a little bit more basic, more beginner level with just how to draw a face, eye, nose, mouth. This is a slightly more advanced and just as fun. And then obviously stay tuned for when Apple Black drops on Webtoon, finally, probably the first week of September. So Whyt Manga everywhere.
All right, awesome. We want to thank you so very much for being a guest here on the Parallel Universe. You guys check out Whyt Manga and all the other creators over there at Saturday AM. Thank you so very much, Whyt Manga. And as always, we'll see you in the Parallel Universe.